Good morning.
So Jolene, when we
Yeah.
start the meeting, Laura is just going to do a little housekeeping reminder for the meeting. So once you get it rolling, she'll have that little announcement.
Okay, great. So it's 9:31, so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Laura, do you
Wonderful.
want to do the housekeeping first?
Housekeeping. Sorry, I had to do that. Yeah, just a couple of things. We have quite a few people online as well as a couple here in person today. So if we are making any motions or seconds or whatever, please make sure you call out your name so that we can record that. Also, those that are here in person, you have this little button on your microphone that is essentially your mute button or your speak button, and it's the little face that has the projection on it. So if you have anything to comment on, please use that. Those of you who are not speaking, make for sure you mute yourself on there so that we don't hear your pets, children, significant others. My husband bombed one of my meetings last week. So yeah. So yeah, that's it. We can get started.
Fantastic. So do we have, so actually, Laura, I think since you're in the room and there's people in the room and I'm on Zoom, would you be comfortable if I turn over running the meeting to you since you can see everybody?
Yeah, I don't mind calling everybody out. I think I can see everybody that's on Zoom from here. Okay. Yeah. So
Okay, I'll go ahead and let you run it because I just think that'd be easier.
Okay. So roll call out here. We have Jolene Hausman from Fountain Valley Senior Center. She is our chair. We have Allison Burns from Mountain Metro Transit. Bridget Kirby is from Community Intersections. Erica Carter is from Silver Key, and John Carroll is from Special Kids, Special Families. We have in the room Ted Schweitzer from up at Cripple Creek Transit. And then we have Kristen Admonson from Goodwill, Colorado. I think I did that right. Oh, wow. Okay. I have learned everybody. So yeah, that is who is in the room, except for Melissa is here. Jessica Bechtel is here. Our new military fellow that will be working with the AAA is here. Her name is Jenny Nyhill. Okay. Jenny Nyhill, and then myself, Laura Cruz, mobility coordinator. I'm turning it back over to you, Jolene.
Okay, thank you, Laura. And we did have someone on Zoom named Troy.
That is a new person at Goodwill that I invited. So maybe he's having some technical issues.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yep. So did everybody get the opportunity to read through the agenda and the minutes? Okay, there's no updates to either. Can we do a joint motion, or do I hear a motion to approve the minutes and agenda? Remember to say your name, please.
John Carroll, move to approve the agenda and/or minutes.
Thank you. And a second?
Kristen Amundsen, Goodwill, second.
Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So if anybody has public comments not on the agenda. Okay, I do have one. The Fountain Valley Senior Center has been closed due to a COVID outbreak. We did meet the El Paso County and state health department's threshold as an official outbreak. We had 7 cases of COVID. All people were vaccinated. And 2 of the seniors did get the antibody blood transfusions. And we had little to no symptoms. So it does go to show that the vaccines are working. One was a 90-year-old woman on oxygen, and she had a minor cough and stayed at home. So nobody was ill. Good luck if you have an outbreak. There is a lot of paperwork. And so have fun with that. The lesson I learned is when filling out the spreadsheets, you only have to spread them out for positive cases. So we actually contacted all 130 people that had been at the senior center. And I initially filled out that spreadsheet for all 130 people. So please learn from me and learn you only have to fill it out for the positives, because there's about 30 columns of data. So remember, only the positives on that spreadsheet. It'll save you about 9 hours of work. But we are back open. Seniors have come back. We reopened yesterday. Transportation never closed. None of the cases were associated with transportation. It was all in-house. So that's just the update. I hope everybody's vaccinated and or getting vaccinated so this doesn't keep happening. We have no new membership appointments. And sadly, Phil has left Invita to pursue a different position somewhere in Colorado. And so he will no longer be on the MCC committee. So he is currently the second vice chair and we need to fill that role. So I guess first, do we have anybody that would like to volunteer for that role before somebody's voluntold for the role?
Jolene, this is Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
I was writing something down and I don't know that I totally heard what you said. Did you say that you're looking for the new vice chair?
Yes, the second vice chair.
Second vice chair, thank you. Because on the minutes or on the agenda, it should say second vice chair on there because of course, Dick Hyde moves into the vice chair role. And so now it is looking for a second vice chair.
So as everyone's jumping to volunteer, I just want to let you know your duties would be to run the meeting if neither Dick nor I could run the meeting. So no pressure as I'm staring intently at you through Zoom. So Melissa, what do we do in a situation where there's not a self-nominee for second vice chair?
So I did read in the bylaws that it's okay to go without one because we're so close to appointing the new leadership team.
Okay.
So you can forego that, knowing that part of what will be talked about with the membership committee is the reminder that it is time to look at coming up with new officers that would go into place, voted and approved December and starting January 1. So you're okay to hold off on a second vice
then-
chair.
Yeah, then let's not volunteer anyone. Let's just hold off since it is only 2 months away. I think we'll be good. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one. Last meeting, we had discussed a membership committee to help increase membership. And Melissa did send out with the agenda from the bylaws that the nominating and membership subcommittee is our only standing subcommittee. It shall consist of 3 voting members selected by the larger committee. And part of it was that they help promote membership, and then they also help select a slate of nominees for election of officers at the last meeting of the year. So do we have volunteers for the membership committee? I will lead by example and volunteer to be on the membership committee, Laura, because I do think when we discussed at the last meeting, there's a lot of places that we're not reaching out to. Right now on our committee, there is very much fixed route and specialized transit represented at the meeting, but we're missing, when we talk about mobility, coming from a wheelchair recently, we are missing out on a lot of like the bikers group, the pedal bikers groups, and all forms of mobility. So I would be more than happy to assist in that membership committee, Laura.
Great, thanks. I just want to kind of talk a little bit more about sort of the duties of this committee and the commitment to this committee. Since I started, our membership of this committee has kind of, or participation, we have a lot of members, but participation in this committee has kind of dwindled. And part of that is we haven't had a lot to work on. A lot of us have been dealing with just COVID situations and kind of having to inwardly look at our organizations, which is very much so understandable. But it's important as we move forward and as we try to kind of pull ourselves out of this pandemic that we start assembling ourselves and getting the foundation to really start being being what we say we are here to do, which is what was outlined in our bylaws. And so I really would like for this to be a committee that grows back into a committee that is really informing our board about transit issues. Right now, that's being pretty much staff led, but it's how we're constructed is for you guys to be the voices of transit transit to our board of directors so that they can advocate for your programs as well as have a better understanding as to what's going on in their community. So in order for us to kind of be positioned to do that, we need more people here. And we need more people here specifically as we step into next year, which is going to be a huge planning year for PPACG. We have the specialized transit plan, which will be updated next year, which all of our specialized transportation projects that are going to receive any kind of federal funds need to be in that plan. So those of you who are receiving federal funds or want to receive federal funds really need to be here to help participate in those activities. Also, we have a Tri-County study going on, which the Tri-County study is really looking into transportation, transit, all kinds of, economic things that can help connect our communities that we serve better. And lastly, next year we have the transit plan that MMT will be implementing and working through that will involve kind of all of us to help support that transit plan that is just an overarching regional transit plan for our area. So there's a lot of things for us to work on next year, and we need those at the table in order to do so. So the commitment for this committee is really to be an arm out into the community and to promote, what we're supposed to be doing, what their involvement and what their value add would be to this committee, and also to really reach out to those communities that have not been represented here in a really long time. So that we can really start making decisions. We have the RAC committee, we have the CAC committee, which is the Community Advisory Committee, and we have the Transportation Advisory Committee, the TAC committee that also meet monthly. And those are all committees that are making recommendations to the board. And we haven't been assembled enough to do that. So I'd really encourage some people to kind of step up to the plate to help in formulating this membership committee. You're looking at a commitment, we'll talk through how often we may meet in order to kind of be able to report out and also have new members that we can vote in. We'll talk through that after this meeting and sort of the cadence and whatnot from that. I'm not looking at a huge commitment, but just a commitment to really start reaching out into the community.
So Laura, based on a lot of what you said, I'm just going to throw out that I think Ted would make an excellent person on the membership committee so that Teller County is represented. And he knows everybody in the transportation world if you've ever gone to a CASTA conference with him. And so I think he could help bring in not only Teller County people, but also increase membership participation.
I'll assist where I can to help Teller County. It's kind of fragmented up there right now. We're still putting together a few things, but yes, I'll help where I can.
Thank you, Ted.
This is Kristen from Goodwill. I've always been a little bit timid because I really don't have a whole lot to do with transportation at Goodwill. And so a lot of my knowledge in the past has been grants and kind of making sure someone is represented so we kind of know what's going on. And we do fill a lot of gaps in the community, but we're not really, a transit program that receives funding for that. But I am happy to assist. And I don't know, Troy Pring was on the call and isn't, but he is a community transportation supervisor. So he's more on our Goodwill side that does have open door transportation. So maybe I can, say I'll help. And then as I get to know him and his role, maybe we can both do something. I'm definitely out in the community, but I have a little bit of a conflict too, where I do market like a lot of our business services at Goodwill. So I don't want to ever have that be like a conflict of interest on kind of what my day job is. But yeah, I'm happy to help, when we're out in the community and try to recruit more folks.
Thanks, Kristen. And I think you brought up a good point. So and something I'd like to address. This isn't really something that we're necessarily, we're trying to network. This is a networking type of scenario. So in order for us to be able to kind of function as transit agencies, we need individuals who are not just transit people, but also individuals that represent those that utilize and depend upon transit. So those may be different areas that someone who's more broadly involved in their organization can help connect us to. I'll send back out the June meeting notes where we kind of detailed the groups that we wanted to target. I know another person, Jolene, that may be interested is Sharon. Sharon kind of expressed an interest. She's not on the call today. I'm going to, kind of throw her out there. But in terms of helping out with this committee as well. But it is just connecting and networking with individuals who not only are transit agency providers, but also those who can inform us as transit agency providers on the services that we need to be providing. So,
And is
I
that
said
Sharon
providing what?
Brown?
Yes.
Okay. And she has a lot of connections, so that would be great too. So tentatively, me and Kristen can help you. And I think, Kristen, you're a fabulous addition because you network so much, and that's really what this is about. And then we can tentatively say Sharon and confirm with her, Laura.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
And then as we go into doing the slate of nominees, we can always change the membership of this committee in January to reflect the new year. So
Yes.
it's not a lifelong commitment. Okay, then we'll do that. We have no provider presentations. And then I'm going to turn over number 9 to Laura. And I'm sorry, but I have a senior knocking on my office door. Oops, Laura, if you can cover number 9, and if by some chance you don't see me back on here, finish out the agenda.
Okay, I think number 9 is just my updates. Sorry, losing my voice. I already kind of covered a couple of things, but I do want to bring a few things up. Melissa, myself, Jody, and Melody met yesterday just to kind of talk through the upcoming RFP process for both AAA and 5310 funding and other transit funding that we have. It's going to look a little bit different this next year. We are just in preliminary talks about what that may look like, but we'll have probably a more accelerated schedule this next year to kind of help us make for sure that we're giving ourselves time to get through all the committees to make those decisions, as well as giving you guys adequate time in order to make your submissions. So more to come on that. But we are looking at an earlier time of launching that RFP for those funding opportunities. We're also trying to work on doing sort of a joint call for projects for transportation funding. That was a goal this past year. A lot happened this past year with 5310 and transit funding, so we weren't able to pull it off, but we're hoping to work towards that this next year. Secondly, things to keep on your radar of ways that you can be very influential in terms of funding and projects that are going to be centered around transit and transportation. As I mentioned before, we are stepping into our major planning year for our long range plan. And so that long range plan primarily is under the MPO region, which Metropolitan Planning Organization region, which covers mostly just the UZA, the urbanized area surrounding Colorado Springs. And that long range plan includes the specialized transportation plan and the transit plan for this area. And to kind of educate you a little bit on that, any project that is that will be seeking federal funding needs to be tied to that plan. So those of you who went through the RFP process last year for 5310, there was a huge emphasis in your proposals to kind of show the correlation of the specialized transportation plan and your project that you are presenting. And so it's important that you guys get involved in the process of that plan. And I'll be looking to this group this year. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be helping manage the specialized transportation plan. So we'll actually be working with you guys to help put together the framework that we're going to present to potential consultants to help us with that planning process. So instead of us kind of inheriting sort of a blanket framework, we are going to be working to put together what do we need from our community to help inform our services. So that's a pretty cool opportunity, because whatever goes into that plan, that means we can fund with federal funds. Secondly, with the transit plan is put together in conjunction with MMT. They really take the lead on that. But the specialized transit plan and the transit plan are supposed to complement each other. And so whatever we have within that specialized transportation plan, it's supposed to complement what the overarching transit plan is. So they influence each other. So it's important to be here to help support those planning opportunities and participate. And then we have, like I said, the Tri-County study that's already going on. The Tri-County study is a very broad plan. Like I mentioned before, it's transportation projects, transit projects, projects that may pertain to economic development opportunities. And the Tri-County plan covers El Paso County, Teller, and Park counties, and looking at it from a broad stroke perspective of what are those needs and what are some connections that we can make between those communities. And so some of you guys will be engaged as we get further into that planning process to discuss some of those connections that can be made and need to be made, and how can we fund those in the future. And then lastly, we have the bike pedestrian plan that will be kicked off next year. And that's why we need some of those folks that are involved in the bike pedestrian world to be a part of this group, because we want to make connections between bike pedestrian paths to transit systems. And so it is going to be an interesting new look of how we work on that plan. And again, these plans are put together so that they are regionally, from a regional perspective, so that the individual municipalities can use them as a tool in their planning process. So a lot of planning going on next year that I need people at the table to help us do that, because if PPACG staff are just sitting in the room and making assumptions, it's not going to bode well for you guys as well as the community. So it's going to be important. Any questions on any of that?
Laura, this is Melissa, and I did put a question in the chat about if you have dates for when the specialized transit plan and Tri-County planning or study are estimated to start.
Yes. What I'll do after this meeting, we actually have like a flow chart of those plans. I can shoot that out to the group so that you can kind of see the timing of those. We will be working on the framework for the specialized transit plan well ahead of that actual schedule. So I'm working with the transportation department to kind of figure out when that framework needs to be put together before we submit or send out the RFP to consultants. Cool. No questions? Awesome. Those are my main updates.
So Laura, I can talk about the driver recognition awards.
Awesome.
If Jolene isn't back on, and if she comes back on, she can jump in. So again, this is Melissa. And so I've been the kind of administrator for the mobility coordinating committee now for, I think, 2 years. And last year, when we did the driver recognition awards, it had to be via Zoom. But yet again, when the driver recognition awards came up, I was reminded about how incredibly cool these are and how we need to do press releases about this stuff. And so I wanted to be a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more focused, you know, in getting these awards out. And so starting the planning kind of now instead of, you know, the week before we actually want to award the awards kind of a thing. And so just wanted to put that out there for everybody. sadly, I can't remember, at the end of the year, we combine the mobility coordinating committee, November and December meetings. Usually we end up doing it kind of at the beginning of December kind of a thing, because, Thanksgiving ends up falling on the November date. And so we end up having to look at a different date to do it. So stay tuned for that conversation, probably in October, for us to, confirm what date we actually want to meet. In times past, which was the first year I started, it was actually a big party in the PPACG boardroom with food and fun, and it was great. We could do that again if we wanted to. So we do have the ability to have people meet here in person. We can set up tables, social distancing. So if this group wanted to do something in person, we could. And again, that might be a nice opportunity for some press to come and take some pictures of the wonderful drivers and hear the stories of who they are and what they've done. Because I was completely moved last year. I was moved the first year, but I forget about it until they get right in front of me. And I did not want to forget this year. So things to be thinking about. Do we want to do something in person? Or, it could just be hybrid. Maybe some people come in person and some people are on Zoom. We will have to look at a date, probably the beginning of December. And then also wanting to do some press releases. So we can coordinate those press releases out of our office with everyone's names on them. But as I'm looking over at Kristen, and even Erica and John, everybody might want to send their own press release too, just to really get the attention up and rolling about these driver awards. So we can discuss that more in detail at the October meeting. But just planting that thought now. And I wonder if anybody has any comments about driver recognition awards.
I just think it's a really good idea. I like in advance. I struggled last year trying to get, them to nominate, get the stuff. And so I do think that's an awesome idea to kind of start thinking of it now, and whatever people are comfortable with, whether it's in person or, I think, drivers are tough too, because their schedules and stuff. So if we get it approved ahead of time that they can have that time to be here would be great.
I think this is almost the year of most importance to do this since so many people have been stretched pretty thin. I know that all of us on the call are struggling with recruiting drivers and keeping drivers. They've had to deal with a lot of adaptations this year to their work. And so I think this is a super important year for us to put a high emphasis on it. It also shows to the community how much we value our people, and can be used also as a recruiting tool in terms of showing just, how much we value our staff. So I think it's super important that we do that this year.
Well, with all that said, again, this will be on the agenda again next month to clarify those details that I brought up today.
Melissa, do you think it would be good for us to put together just a basic form sheet that says, okay, this is the driver to nominate, just a brief bio of that driver, just to give everybody a form sheet and then a deadline to have that submitted?
So I think we might have that in our file already.
Okay.
I just wrote that down to check, to remind myself. And if we don't, we will. And I thought we would just go ahead and try to send that out this week or next week, just to get people thinking about it. So, yeah.
Cool.
Is the next meeting actually on October 25th? Because that's a Monday, I believe.
Heck no.
Oh, it's,
So October
okay.
26th.
Okay.
Really?
Thanks.
Next month, I'm hoping to have somebody here from potentially Julata to present to us. Just a quick update. So last meeting, we talked a little bit about standardized referrals. So if I can't do that right, how do I refer somebody out? There are several people who are connected on the route match system, but there is a lot of people who are not. And so how do we better connect with each other so that individuals don't fall through the cracks in our services? And so we had a couple of months ago, Unite Colorado come out and talk about their system of referrals that could be a potential tool for this group. I have met with the fire department about Julata as a suggestion from Jason at Silver Key that Julata is a similar system for referrals that could be utilized. And some of the agencies that are on this call are already networked through that. So want to explore multiple options there. I think it's important as a coordinating committee that we figure out how we can coordinate and communicate with each other better. So hoping to have the person from Julata out potentially for the next meeting. That's all I have. Does anybody have any, updates about their organization that they wanted to share before we hopped off here? Any events coming up?
I know that Silver Key has an event this evening or this afternoon evening. It's not necessarily related to transit, but Erica might want to share. And John Carroll, maybe their event is coming up again this year if he's back on. I know he said he had to step away for a minute. And so those are two things that I know about off the top of my head if people wanted to share.
We're also having
Sure,
a
I'll share
flu-shot
for a
clinic.
moment, if that's okay.
Sorry. We're having a flu shot clinic at the Fountain Valley Senior Center on October 6th. So for people that don't want to go to the doctor or Walgreens, if you bring an insurance card, Walgreens will just give you a flu shot here. Go ahead, Erica.
Okay, yeah, just what Melissa was talking about. We have a community conversation and support launch this evening. So there's several people that are participating, but if anybody wanted to kind of step in, it's for our housing initiative. And so lots of information. We're going to be having Food for Thought facilitate. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them, but kind of to start the conversation on the needs of the community. So I would welcome any of you to come and talk and kind of give us your feedback if you'd like.
Erica, when and where is that?
So that is starts at 3:30. It's at Silver Key. It's at our 1655 building, so it's on the south end. And so it'll be in one of the rooms as you walk in the door there.
Cool.
1655 South Murray Boulevard. Again, it starts at 3:30 and it goes up until about 5:30.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And yeah, sure. I would like to get a plug in for our big fundraiser, our 10th annual Night of Comedy. It is October 16th at Hotel Elegante, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Nice dinner, silent auction, and comedian Josh Blue, who, if you don't know him, he was just on America's Got Talent, one of the finalists, did pretty well, and a comedian who has cerebral palsy and does stand-up comedy and makes a lot of fun of himself. Very funny guy. So we're excited about that. Tickets are going fast. We are getting close to being filled up. May have to add a few tables, but our website has all the info, sksfcolorado.org. So come on out and laugh your mask off.
Well, if that is everybody, I think one other thing to put on the agenda next month is talking about, with the group, we will start discussing how are we going to help transport people to get their booster shots. So keep that in mind. I think that's going to be super important that we coordinate with each other in order to do so. So PPACG is already kind of working with some providers to talk about how do we do outreach to those individuals. And then we'll be pulling in transit providers to help us in terms of execution. So more on that next month.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, we can adjourn at 10:11.
See you guys.